Hey, what's up, y'all? Hope all is well. You are tuning into Big Tech Energy. My name is Jared Alberton. And if you don't know me, my whole goal in my life right now is increasing diversity in tech through education, access to resources, and interviewing some of the people in my inner network that are killing it in the tech space, whether they are making a ton of money as tech employees or they are changing the world as tech startup founders. I'm definitely understanding what is their energy, what is their mindset, what was their execution strategy, and what is the advice that they would give you, the listener, so that they can replicate the success that they've had. My name is Jared Alberton, and welcome to Big Tech Energy. So on this episode, I have Cyrus Harbin. He is the man that does Tech is the New Black. He's the CMO of Validify. And he's just overall like a really good dude that's helping a lot of black people and people in general get into the tech space. And I'll give props where props are due. I saw his podcast, Tech is the New Black, and I was like, you know what? I need to expand my platform beyond like Twitter Spaces and LinkedIn Audio because there is a need for it. There's a desire for it. And I feel like there's something that I can do that could be helpful to more people if I do it this way. So Cyrus, I appreciate you for popping on the show, man. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the people, and we're just going to get into it.
Yeah, bro. I don't know how I'm going to top that introduction you just did for me, man. But yeah, so as he said, I'm Cyrus. I'm the founder of Tech is the New Black, as well as a sales engineer, but most recently a chief marketing officer for Validify. Yeah, man, been having a fun time in this industry. Man, very grateful for people like yourself who just have a vast array of knowledge, and you're putting people on, not being a gatekeeper or anything like that. And so, man, I've just been giving out all the game of everything I know, been leveraging my social media platform to just really help my audience out and help out other people basically doing similar things to you, man. So again, I appreciate being able to like inspire you in some ways. And already we've talked offline about some ways you've benefited me and stuff. So, man, let's get into it.
Awesome, brother. So the first thing I want to get into is your journey to get into tech. You've documented it really well online in terms of, you were a Lyft driver.
Yeah.
You were, not really where you wanted to be financially.
Yeah.
And you took the leap of faith to get into a boot camp.
I was broke.
You're broke. Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, you weren't where you wanted to be financially. I was broke.
Yeah, man. Well, you know what? That's where everybody starts. It's not where you start, it's how you finish, right?
Exactly.
So talk about what inspired you to get into tech,
yeah.
And then what were those steps that got you into boot camp, your experience, and then, where it landed you.
Yeah, definitely. So what really inspired me, I would say, before being in tech, I was already a, air quote influencer on social media. I actually had an idea. What actually kind of inspired me to get in tech was a two-part thing. First, I had an idea for essentially it was going to be a software business. In my head, it was like, okay, there's this business that I have. We need an app, but then we realized the entire business essentially was going to need to be built around the app and everything that we were doing with the app, and essentially how we were going to make money as a business. And so I hit up a few friends and I was like, hey, I need someone that can make an app. And someone recommended a homeboy of mine, and he's an amazing developer, engineer, all of the above. And we met and started working together, and I realized, man, this guy knows his stuff. And his passion for basically coding, I was like, yo, this is really dope. And as we were working on the app and everything around it, I was like, yo, this industry, I was learning so much just through him. And I said, man, this industry is really cool. It's really great. I thought it was really awesome. And around that time, the pandemic ended up hitting. And so I was already Lyft driving, but now it's like, okay, I have to Lyft drive a lot more because now there's not a lot of like motion. I couldn't go out and do stuff. Like most of us are already aware of that. And so with that, I told my homeboy, I said, hey man, look, I said, man, I'm doing this Lyft driving a lot. I said, but I'm noticing it's putting a lot of wear and tear on my car. I said, bro, I can't do this long term. I said, I'm going to have to get like a normal job somewhere. And I knew I wasn't going to be making much. I was already, again, just barely making enough to get by. And he said to me, he was like, oh, well, how much are you making Lyft driving? He said, you're making like $40,000 a year? He was like, okay, look, he said, how about this? He says, I could just pay you the money. He said, just make me a complete equal partner in the business. He says, I'll pay you $40,000, you know, for the next year. He said, if the following year, if the business hasn't taken off yet, he said, then the next year I'll pay you $60,000. And it was at that point where I realized, I said, yo, this guy can pay me my salary and it not affect his life. It's just like, oh yeah, oh how much? Oh that, oh yeah, that's extra money I have on the side. I could pay you that, continue my investments, continue, you know, growing my real estate portfolio. And I was like, no, there's no way he's making this much money. So already I saw the passion that he had for his job, his role. And I also fell in love, started to grow an affinity for the industry in and of itself via like business. I said, man, this industry is really dope and cool. But then when I realized, when I kind of put the pieces together in terms of how much he was making, I was like, oh no, I have to get in this industry. I said, man, there's something going on that I feel like most people aren't being told, like that isn't being exposed to people who look like you and I.
Facts.
And so between that and also Lyft driving, I picked up so many different people who, whether it was like, you know, young drunk white boys in a car that would be like just in the back of the car, just, you know, we just talking, laughing, whatever. And then I'll be like, man, you know, I would pull up to their crib and, you know, I'm thinking naturally, oh, their parents probably bought this for them. And they're like, we're talking. They're like, no, bro, we all work in tech. We work in tech. And I was like, what? I'm like, y'all are 20, 21. And I was like, okay, I know y'all are drunk, but I can tell y'all aren't the smartest group at all. That. And then really the other thing that kind of like really supercharged me was I kept picking up different people in the Indian community that would be coming to Atlanta for events and conferences. And usually they'd be like tech events or they'd be coming to work, whatever. And I had a straight up conversation with a gentleman, Indian gentleman. And I asked him, I said, hey, I was like, man, I said, can I ask you like a candid question? I was like, is like your community, is the Indian community, y'all have like a proclivity, like a natural gifting towards like coding or a natural gifting towards anything in this whole software tech industry? And the guy bust out laughing. He was like, no. He said most of the people in my community are terrible at this stuff. He said, but we just go for it. He said, we go after it. He said, and there's so many opportunities. He said, you don't have to be a master at these things. As long as you go after it, you're hardworking. And it kind of like opened my eyes to realize, man, many people, and I know it's not just people of color. I'm sure there are like many white people who even themselves like look at it and they're like, I don't think I'm qualified for that for whatever reason. And once I basically realized, okay, there's money here. This industry is pretty dope. And I'm meeting a plethora of people that are good people, cool people, but aren't necessarily the sharpest tools. I was like, yo, I need to definitely go ahead and do my due diligence to get into this industry.
Got it. Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, that's why I did all those like clubhouse spaces, et cetera, because I needed them to understand like there's nothing different between me and them, except I just went for it. And I believe that, shoot, I can do it. Plus, I had a passion for it. I found my why, which was to make a lot of money and traveling. But that might not be for everybody, though, right? And also love working with C-level executives about their business challenges and solving them and watching them grow and be successful. Like, I like to see people win. So it's a win-win, you know. You buy my software, I make a big commission, but I implement the software and I overachieve the objectives that you were looking for. And now you're getting promoted, you're looking good, and we can look good together and win together.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So like, when did you figure out the path that you wanted to ended up taking, which is sales engineer? How'd you figure out that was going to be your path versus being like a software engineer or like a data scientist or all those other roles in tech? So that's a great question. Usually I tell people, whenever people ask me that question, I usually just tell them like, hey, look across. I'm like, if your goal is to make a lot of money, maybe look up the top 20 paying roles in tech. Look at each of those roles and then look at the breakdown and maybe analyze it to 3 or 4 that you feel, hey, I could do this thing. I could see myself doing this thing for at least a few years. And obviously, if you decide, okay, I want to do something else, this industry is wonderful for being able to transition over into something else. But the way that that's essentially the route that I went. I looked across the board. I said, hey, I want to make sure I'm making at least X amount of dollars. So I said, hey, what are the top X, Y, and Z sub industries in tech that I can do? Of course, the website, at the time, the website that pulled up and the examples that it gave, I'm realizing we're very limited to all the roles in this industry. So but at the same time, had I saw everything, I probably would have been overwhelmed. I would have been like, it's too much. So
I saw a bunch of different options. One of the options that I saw was sales engineering. And initially, I was gonna do tech. I was gonna be go for like an account executive, or at least maybe start off as like entry level SDR, BDR type. But I saw sales engineering and realizing, wow, you're doing a tailored demo or presentation of the product to the prospect.
Yep.
It's not your direct job you're not necessarily selling them on the product, but you're doing a presentation, but the way that you're doing the presentation is meant to encourage them and show them why your company's product isn't just good enough to fit their need, but why your company's product is uniquely poised and tailored to fit their need even better than your competitors. And to me, I thought it was so dope because my background, I used to do a lot of spoken word and like speaking engagement stuff. And I used to love how whenever I would get booked to speak, they would give me the outline of what they would want me to speak about, or what they would want me to like write the poem on, the theme, and how I would have to tailor that poem specifically to that theme with the intended purpose of it generating an emotional response from the audience that lined up with the goal of that event. Essentially would cause people to be like, oh man, we need to come back to this event again, or we need to purchase whatever they have going on at this event, whatever it might be. And I love that. I love going backstage and the people over the event saying, man, that poem did something that really helped our event in ways that we didn't even realize it was going to do. And so sales engineering felt like the exact same thing. I said, what? I literally can get paid 6 figures to tailor an entire story of our company's software and technology and asking the customer about their pain points and me tailoring in their issues and what they're dealing with, even on a very like intimate personal level. I said, yo, that's crazy. And sure enough, like that's what it was. That's what it had been. And I was like, yo, this is the coolest thing ever. So every time I would demo or do the presentation, I always say presentation for people that aren't aware of like what a demo is, or demonstration. For those who are wondering, demo is short for demonstration. Doing the demo, every time when I turned my camera on, it felt like a performance. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, let's go. Yeah. And it's the coolest thing. I'm like, yo, this is so cool. And even the random interjections where, the prospect or customer would interject, it felt like, as a former poet, any type of artist, you start to get into a rhythm to where the audience can interrupt you, or maybe a comedian, whatever, a heckler can interrupt you. And when you really know your ish, you can be interrupted and weave in that interruption into your entire process, which makes you look 10 times better. Yeah. And so same thing when you're doing the demos, and it's like, yo, it's just the coolest thing ever. I thought it was super dope. And so I was very happy that I chose it, but I also had the mentality going into it that, hey, if I end up not liking this, I learned, oh, cool, you can always like pivot and transition over to something else in this industry. And there's a crap ton of other roles in this industry I think are dope, but that's kind of the lane that I found myself in, at least initially starting out.
Yeah, no, I mean, sales engineering is dope for a lot of different reasons, but I think, like you said, as a salesperson, you got to do SDR, which is usually lower paid. Then you got to move up to inside sales, and then small medium business sales, and then commercial and enterprise. It takes a while to get to that 6-figure point. Yeah. Whereas a sales engineer, just based off of your transferable skills, your ability to interview, very helpful. You can get a referral. You can get a 6-figure job as a sales engineer without the pressure of a salesperson.
Yeah, no, that's real.
Yeah. So like for me, I had a quarterly quota, I had forecast calls, and I had this constant pressure from my management about, are you gonna hit the number? Are you gonna hit the number? My sales engineer was just sitting back, just being like, yo, when do you need me to demo?
Literally, quite literally. Yeah, I would say I've only ever seen one sales engineer, because as a sales engineer, you don't, like you just said, you don't have a quota you have to hit.
You don't have to cold call.
Yeah, it's no cold. It's none of those things. And so, and the pay is great. Like the first company, they started me at $90,000, and then most of my friends that I've helped get into the industry, they started out higher than me. I'm actually that $90,000 was the lowest starting salary I've seen out of any of my friends that started out as a sales engineer. And man, I think the beauty of it, like just like you were saying, is that it's like, yo, it's not on me for the product to be sold. It's on me to be a product expert and just do a good job at demoing answering questions and being of service. I've only ever seen one sales engineer who recently, I think a week or 2 weeks ago, he hit me up. And we used to work together at a company, and he was like, "Hey, bro, I actually just got laid off," and I was very confused. I was like, "What in the world? How did he get laid?" But then I literally thought about it, and I said, "Oh, I remember being at the company. He was the person who." Basically, none of the account executives wanted him on their demo. Yeah. I was significantly newer than him. Like, he trained the sales engineers who trained me at the company. He had been there so long that the people who were there before me got promoted before him, and then myself and the other guy who he was kind of helping train, that guy got promoted, but I left right before my promotion. So literally, the company was trying to promote he was basically gonna get lapped twice. He was gonna get lapped by some people and then get lapped by us. So he's the only sales engineer that I've ever seen where it's like, yeah, he got let go, but it wasn't because he wasn't hitting a quota or he wasn't doing this, he wasn't doing that. It was because it's like you could tell that he was not becoming a product expert. He wasn't putting in reps to like really learn his stuff. He wasn't energetic during the calls. And not saying you have to be energetic. You don't have to be an extrovert. Some of the best sales engineers I've seen are introverts. Yeah. But he just was a person that was just extremely monotone, just did not seem like he wanted to be there. Customers or prospects would ask questions, and then he would take a long time and say, so about that, it was just very dry. Right. And so, but yeah, so to your point, yeah, it's not really much on your shoulders. You can even be someone like him. Hopefully you're not someone like him where it's like he was able to ride out that company for like a few years and was not doing very much at all.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because I don't really ever talk about it publicly, but like when it comes down to it, there were definitely sales engineers that were my favorites. Like I want him on my demo or her on my demo because she's going to just like bob and weave.
Yeah, put a little Tabasco with some sauce on it.
Yeah, exactly. And just got really people on the edge of their seat because they're really painting the picture of how great their life will be with this software through their demo.
Yeah.
And they have the enthusiasm and they can answer questions quick on their feet.
Yeah.
And if they can be likable. Plus, I like the sales engineers that were helpful in the sense of like, help me fill out this RFP or, help me, with certain questions that, they didn't need to be a part of.
Yeah.
So yeah, being likable is important, especially in this economic climate, et cetera. But when it comes to the bootcamp experience, let's back up and talk about that in terms of how your experience was at your bootcamp, and is this something you recommend to others in terms of utilizing bootcamps? And then what should they look out for in terms of what are the good boot camps and what are maybe not so much, because they're not all created equal.
Yeah, no, they're definitely not all created equal. So a few different things. So the boot camp that I did, it was a 4-week program at the time. And now I think it's like 8 to 12 weeks. I did Careerist, and at the time they were the only boot camp that offered sales engineering. So again, going back to the model or the kind of format, I looked across, saw different roles, and then I really chose 3 roles. And out of the 3, I looked up like ways to get in the industry to do those jobs. And the one I really wanted was sales engineering, and the bootcamp Careerist. At the time, they were the only one that offered sales engineering. So I was like, yo, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I did research. I'm gonna be real. When I did research, I saw good reviews. I saw bad reviews. I saw people saying like, "Oh yeah, it's good." I saw a bunch of people saying, "Oh, it's a scam. Don't do it." Whatever. But I was at a place of such deep desperation. I honestly was like, "Man, I don't even care." Because I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I'm gonna be where I'm at right now. Yeah, I'll give them a couple $1,000s, and I'll be out of a couple $1,000s. But right now, a couple $1,000s isn't gonna change my life. I'm just gonna be a broke person that has a couple $1,000s saved. That's it. So man, I paid that, and I was like, I went hard in the program. They gave a lot of really cool resources. I don't want to do like a whole like overview of everything that they do, but essentially, from the information that they gave, the help from the instructors, as well as the interviewing tips, the ways that they were able to connect me with a variety of different companies to interview with, I was overwhelmed with interviews to where I was like, half the time I wasn't even able to be fully prepared for the interviews. I was getting so many. So I had to kind of pull back and kind of get organized and like really be on top of my stuff when it came to like knowing when I had interviews, what time they were, what company it was, all of the things that we know at this point you need to be prepared for when going into an interview. And so 8 weeks after the program is when I got my first job and broke into the industry. But going back to how people can know that a boot camp is worth its salt, because there are a lot of boot camps out here. there's different ways that there are a lot of free boot camps that are out here, and many times people will hit me up about a free boot camp, say, oh, it's completely free, so I should do it. And I'm like, well, just because it's free doesn't mean that it's good. And also, your time isn't free. Do you really want to spend 2-3 months doing something and then it produces nothing in your life, but you wasted all of that time and all of that energy? So I would definitely say don't jump at a boot camp or a program just because it's free. Also, don't say it's not good because it's free. There are still some that are good, even though that they're free, because some boot camps that are either free or very, very affordable.
Yeah.
Like another one that I offer discounts for, promote course careers. They're very affordable, but it's because some boot camps, they really make their money on the back end by essentially they're a staffing company that kind of operates as a boot camp as well, where the tech companies pay them for hiring students. So essentially the first thing you need to look at is, okay, it's going to sound weird, but look at, okay, how's this boot camp like actually making money? Are they just charging $20,000 up front? But then you look on the back end and see, okay, well, how many people, what percentage of students are actually getting jobs? That's honestly, that's the real bread and butter. That's what to look at.
That's all that matters.
That's all that really matters. Because I've had people hit me up and say, man, Cyrus, this boot camp is $5,000, $6,000, $4,000. And they're like, I just don't know about it. I'm like, your first and or second check is going to pay that back. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Like, but my between my first and second check, that paid for the boot camp that I did, and it's like, and I don't owe nothing. So it's like what are we even talking about? But then same thing, there'll be some boot camps that are 10,000, 20,000, and people are like, man, I'm not sure. And I'm like, look at just like you mentioned, look at the hiring rate. How many of their students are actually getting jobs and transitioning into the industry? And also, what's the window of time that's happening in as well? So I would say that's like a really key piece to look at. The other component is also look at yourself and analyze and determine, hey, am I a hardworking person? Am I going to do my due diligence to make sure I get a job? Because I say this all the time. It's not a boot camp's job to get you a job. It's your job to get yourself a job. But the boot camp gives you all the resources. Again, a good boot camp that's worth its salt. Look at what they're doing for you beyond just the education as well. Because some programs would just educate you. Like, oh, we'll give you all this education, but that's it. So definitely go for something like, there's not a boot camp that I rock with or that I promote that doesn't go beyond just education. They have to do something else. Because again, most of my audience, I'm sure most of your audience are people, especially like newbies, are people that don't know anything.
Yep.
And so it's like, yo, don't just educate them because they also don't realize, yo, the lingo is different in this industry. The culture is different. You know, the acronyms, the way you're being interviewed is different in this industry versus every other industry. And so again, don't just go for a boot camp where it's like, oh, they're going to give me all this education. Look at what else they're going to do aside from the education. What assistance are they going to give you? Again, it's your job to get a job, but you having some form of assistance, some form of help, some form of support is still beneficial. It's still, I would almost say, necessary, especially if you're paying, you know, a bunch of money for the program. And so, just really look at those pieces. I think those are the best pieces to look at. Avoid, and I'll say a don't. Let me say some don'ts. Or some things that you shouldn't do, especially after a boot camp. During a boot camp, once you've signed up for a boot camp, avoid any negative press about that boot camp. If you've already signed up, you've already paid, stay the flip away from Reddit. I don't know why people always run to Reddit and run to certain platforms. And because all it's going to do is drain you of your energy. We're talking big tech energy. It's going to drain you of that big tech energy. You do not want that to happen. One of the things that allowed me to, at the time, I was their fastest hire from the program at the time. And I know one of the things that helped me get hired faster than the other people in my cohort was because I was avoiding any negative press. I was seeing people in my cohort talk about, oh, this person doesn't have a job yet. This is this. I was like, man, look, I don't give a flip who ain't got no job. I don't give a flip who got hired. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. I got tunnel vision. I'm doing what I need to do. Don't tell me, oh, cause we black, they not. I ain't even hearing that right now. Yep. I ain't even hearing that. Oh man, they just want tokens. Okay, cool. I'm gonna be the token then. I'll get 6 figures to be a token, because a lot of folks is I'd rather get 6 figures, 7 figures to be a token then be getting paid $30,000 at Walmart and not be a token because most people that work there look like us. It's like, man, get out of here with that junk. It's like either way you split it, it's like, man. So I just have tunnel vision. Avoid the negative press. Avoid anything that's going to drain you of that big tech energy, and just have that tunnel vision. Put in the work. Put your head down. Grind. Only pop your head up to network. Go to tech networking events. Be on LinkedIn. All that. That's the only time you need to pop your head up. Other than that, you see any negative press, can't see, I'm blind. Blind. Like all that junk. Like stay away from that.
Membership in Black in HR means community and being a part of a culture of like-minded individuals. You have a culture within a culture, especially in the Black community, and Black in HR is that professional culture. We have fun, we laugh and joke about things that are related to us in the workplace, but we also have serious aspects as well where we help each other grow. And it's just one of those places where I can go to any time of the day, pose a question, and I'm gonna get all type of answers, but I'm gonna get support.
And we all work together to give advice, to give insight, to share tips. The networking is amazing.
The people that I've spoken to have allowed me to learn things about myself that I didn't know. So what does that do? When I go to my next interview, I have that confidence when I walk in to be able to explain and speak on what I've done in the past and prove that I am the person for the job.
Now, I mean, I love that you said that, because the mindset is more important than even the resources of the network. If your mindset is scarcity mindset, if it's fear mindset of I'm afraid that I'm going to get rejected, or I'm afraid that when I get there I'm not going to be accepted, or I'm afraid the customers aren't going to like me. Yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is.
So you need to feed your mind with the things that validate the things that you want in your life. And so you were just like, I don't care, I'm gonna make it happen.
Yes.
And another thing that I love that you said, and it's kind of been a theme for this podcast, Big Tech Energy, there's been a lot of tech influencers on like TikTok and whatever bragging about how they don't work hard. And I'm just like, that is such cap. And that's why I feel like a lot of people are getting laid off, is they get in, or they even to try to get in, they don't really even work that hard. It's like, you got to put in the work.
Yes.
Now, once you put in the work and you have the foundation, then you can kind of pull it back a little bit. But it's because you are still getting results.
Yes.
Because tech is a results-oriented business. And if you're not bringing in the results, they're going to trim the fat and keep the people like you and I that are likable, that are easy to work with, hardworking, but more importantly, we get results.
Yes.
So I just wanted to really emphasize what you said there in terms of one mindset. You had an abundant mindset, you had whatever it takes mindset, and you were research and prepared. Plus, the last thing I want to really highlight from what you said was you had a why when it comes to your job that I could feel your passion. You related it back to spoken word. You related it back to speaking. And it was like, this is in my DNA.
Yes.
And I can transfer what's already in my DNA very simply to sales engineering. So people need to really think about like, what is in my DNA? What is it that like I think about and I get excited about? And what is the closest thing that relates to that in tech? Because I'm sure you probably talked about that maybe in a couple of your interviews.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, wow, this guy is not as much of a risk, because I could feel his energy. I can feel his confidence, and he's likable, and he's smart enough to figure it out because you did the research. So when they ask you the questions, you know about the organization, the company values, you know about the product, the industry, the problem it solves. So I just want people to really focus on that. And when you're reaching out to people, have that same amount of due diligence, preparation, but also lead with value when you reach out to people like myself or you or a recruiter, hiring manager, somebody you want a referral from. Don't come in there being like, I want to get into tech, but I don't know what role I want to do. Or I want to get into tech, but I don't know what company to go for. Nah, do your research, man. And like meet somebody halfway or get to the 80-yard line. If you get to the 80-yard line, it's much easier for me to like pull you to the goal line, which is getting you a job in tech, versus I'm at the 20-yard line, help me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the other things, and this is going to sound very counterculture for what's really popular today, is this whole notion of everyone trying to find a job to fulfill them. It's like, Yo, if you find a job that fulfills you, kudos, hats off, more power to you. But one of the things, and I think it's something that's hurting a lot of people from even getting in this industry or thriving in this industry, is the notion of looking for, well, I want to make sure the job that I'm doing fulfills me top to bottom. No time in history has anyone ever looked for a job to fulfill them. It's like a new age thing in like the past 20 years where everyone's saying like, oh, only work a job that fulfills you and makes you happy. Whereas up until 50, 60 years ago, it was something where like if your father was a plumber, you a plumber. If your father was a farmer, you a farmer. You know, if your mom did this, you're going to do that. No one was ever thinking, oh, of something that fulfilled. It was like, okay, something that at least I know how to do and I can do this thing well. Now we're in a beautiful, abundant period of opportunities and even the opportunities, you know, in this industry. And it's like, yo, if you go to someone like Jared or someone like myself and, you know, you're like, oh, I don't really know what to do. And you look across and you see some things. You're like, okay, I see this. I see that. I see this. I'm not sure which one of them. Don't overthink it. Choose one. And the beauty of it is that after you've done it for some time, you've been in the industry and you're like, okay, you know what? I know more now. I have a network of a few people in this industry. You can always transition over to doing something else and leverage that money from your company and put that money into things that you're passionate about. Whether you want to travel and see all 7,000 countries like Jared has already, you know, or if you're someone where, you know, you want to use that money just for certain experiences or to give you like freedom of life and enjoy things. It's like, that's really what it's for. Don't become paralyzed by what is it, analysis paralysis. Don't sit there for so long that you stay stuck where you're at. Just go ahead, do something. And if you're not really feeling it fully, you can go ahead and transition over to something else.
Yeah, and plus, once you build up a really great brand in tech and you position it in a really strong way on LinkedIn, you're getting bombarded by recruiters anyway.
Yes.
And every time you leave a different company, you're getting like $10,000 to $20,000 more in base salary, typically.
Yeah.
Because you're gaining the experience. It's harder to get an increase in salary at a company versus when you jump.
Yes.
So, you know, if you're at a place and you're like, I'm not loving it, kill it. Kill it at the job, get crazy results, build that resume out, and then let LinkedIn and these recruiters, you know, get in your inbox and create a bidding war. So that's my recommendation, especially in tech sales and sales engineering. Plus, one other thing is tech sales, sales engineering, there's a lot of like moving because of the fact that there's so much recruitment. Yeah. So you're a sales engineer, a tech sales guy goes to another company. They're like, we need a sales engineer. Oh, I love Cyrus. Let's bring him in. Yeah. And it just becomes this perpetual cycle. Yeah. One thing that you mentioned though is that you make this money pour into something that you care about. So let's talk about, you know, how you took your tech money, poured it into tech as the new black. Yeah. And now you've been able to create a whole new business that's impacting people, but it's fulfilling for you.
Yeah, man. So it's been a lot of fun. I could definitely just kind of start off saying that first and foremost. So what I did, so I got into the industry. Everything that I was assuming about the industry was 10 times greater once I got in. I said, what? I said, this is all the aspirations I had. Like I always say that when I got my offer letter, I was actually at a Latin bar and I was there dancing with my girlfriend, and it was like about 11 something at night. And she took me out. She said, hey, I want to take you out to celebrate whatever. You know, even though you don't have a job yet, I'm just proud of you, all the work you're putting in. I saw the email and I broke down crying. And literally, you know, in the middle of the spot, like the music, Havata, ooh, Havata, ooh. And I'm sitting there bawling, crying tears. Yeah. And I always say that, man, if I could go back and talk to myself a year and a half ago when I got that offer letter, I would have told myself, bro, you need to cry harder. Because it's like, yo, this industry. So once I realized how dope the industry was, I was like, man, I need to talk about this. And I almost became a person that left my social media alone because I was like, I got this tech bag now. What am I on social media for? I'm about to become one of those people that just disappear off the face of the earth. But I was like, no, more people need to hear about this. So initially I just started talking about it on social media, just trying to put people on. And then at first it was such a pivot from what my content was. I was like, man, this is gonna be so weird. People are gonna be turned off. But at the same time, I didn't really care I was like, as long as I help one or two people.
Because you're focused on the value you're going to give them more than what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm like, if I lose followers and people are like, you're talking tech? What is this tech stuff? I was like, again, I don't care about followers anymore because my money's good because I work in this industry now. And now I just want to help people. But the opposite happened of what I assumed. As soon as I opened my mouth about it, it just, people were like, wait, tell us more. Like, what is this? And even if they weren't sure, they were like, no, please explain to me. What is this? What is this tech stuff you speak of? I was like, even though I didn't know a lot about it before, I was like, I thought we all had a general understanding. And that's when I realized, oh snap, it's a lot of people in our community that don't know anything about it. And I was like, whoa, like people are really missing out on this crazy opportunity. So I kept talking about it. And a plethora of people kept saying, okay, hey, we looked at the program that you did. One, they would say, you know, can you help us get a discount? Are they offering any discounts? Or they would say, do you know of any other options? So then that's what began when I reached out to the program that I did. And I said, hey, can y'all offer my followers and people discounts? And they said, yeah, we could do that. And they offered something. And I said, well, no, I said, look, I have a lot of followers. I said, I'm about to send a lot of people y'all way. Can y'all give them a larger discount than that? And at first they said no. I'm going to say this full transparency. They said no at first. I was like, you know what? I said, we going to play this like a little mafia move. I was like, I'm going to promote y'all. And I know so many people are going to flood. And then I'm going to hit them up later and say, hey, look, a lot of people don't came to y'all. Y'all see that, like, you know, more people are going to be coming. Can y'all offer them a larger discount? And I didn't even get to do that because the first week, I had like a 3-month plan. The first week, what actually ended up happening was their site crashed.
Damn.
Because so many people signed up and hit them up. So then their marketing team hit me up and said, hey, look, we were trying to figure out why our site crashed, what happened, and we realized the traffic came from you. So they said, we actually want to pay you like X, Y, and Z, like a whole like a affiliate thing. And they said, we want to pay you. And I said, well, that sounds good. That sounds cool. I was like, but initially I was asking y'all if y'all can offer a larger discount to my community. And then they said, yeah, we can do that. And that was when that started. And then when people said, oh, well, what about another job in tech? So then it became this thing where I would reach out to other boot camps or other boot camps. Now boot camps are always reaching out to me, and myself and my team, we vet the boot camps. Half the time we're like, nah, we're not really sure if you align with our values, or you don't have a high hiring rate. I mean, shoot, even the boot camp that I did recently, there was some issues with them to where I even had to pull back and talk to them and say, hey, look, I need y'all to kind of clear some things up, fix some things, whatever. Had a meeting with them this week. Even the one of the founders was on the, we actually had 2 meetings where they clarified things that they're changing, that they're fixing to make sure that the program is still quality and up to par. And so, but yeah, that was how everything started. Just with telling people about the boot camps and the programs, then became a kind of start vetting programs as well, to vet like which ones are good, really good for our community to check out.
It's dope. I'm being told that we're like coming to the end of our time, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to do a part 2. So we're gonna do a part 2. If you have time right now, we can actually bust it out.
I'm with it.
But you know, we can do the closing statements just for the sake of this podcast.
This one, yes.
But one thing I want to make sure that you mention is like, personal brand creates opportunities.
Yeah.
So Tech is the New Black, wildly successful. We're going to dive into that a lot more in the second half of this podcast. But this got you another opportunity with Validify. I would love for you to just tell us about Validify. Like, what does this company do, and what is your role? And what are you excited about when it comes to it?
Yeah, definitely. So everything I would say from LinkedIn and Tech is the New Black honestly bled over to the opportunity at Validify with me being a CMO. So what Validify is verification for background and financial. So in terms of, it does a immediate scan of people's information. So that way, let's say you're going to either purchase a real estate property, or you're just going to move into an apartment. Usually the process could take anywhere, depending on what platform they're using, it can take anywhere from a couple days to a couple weeks. And whereas Validify literally happens in seconds. In seconds, they can verify everything. They can verify your income. They can verify, again, your background. They can verify your identification, everything in a matter of seconds. And the other aspect is that Validify doesn't charge our clients anything. Literally, the fee gets passed over onto their customers, and it's even a small fee. So anyone that's even applying, they just pay a small fee. That's tacked on with the application fee for Validify. So it saves literally hours, days, or sometimes weeks of time for any type of real estate business, or even other various forms of business. Like, one of the things we see often is if you go to, like, let's say you go to a bar, or even if you go to like a certain restaurants where you have to give them your ID and your car. Why are you doing that? Because they have to verify. They have to basically show proof to your bank. Like if you try to do a chargeback, because chargebacks are a huge thing right now with businesses. Yep. Literally, Validify eliminates the need for that, because Validify, the customer or prospect, like your customer or prospect, would like take a picture, upload their information, all of that. Validify scans everything and does a verification to where it makes chargebacks like impossible. No one can ever like contact their bank and say, oh, it wasn't me, because it does a full face scan of the person. The person has to take a picture of himself, does a full face scan, does a full scan of their ID, does a full scan of their information, and verifies that it was that actual person that made that purchase even before they make the purchase. So it eliminates the need for any place that you're at for them to say, oh, pull out your card, pull out your ID. So one, it protects your customer from saying someone at your establishment stole my ID, or they created a fake ID of me, or they stole my credit card, or they charged me extra. So it protects both sides, but also it helps everything happen immediately at a significantly lower rate than anyone else that's out there. So it's really dope. It's been a lot of fun working with the Validify team, working at a startup. And yeah, really just taking all of my skill set when it came from marketing, all of the studies and things I've done, as well as leveraging everything I've done on social media to be able to land in a really incredible role like this and work with some very dope people, but also very smart people and hardworking people. It's very, very energetic and a hardworking environment.
That's dope, man. So we're going to dig into that a lot more on the second episode, because I want to learn more about Validify and what you're going to be doing with the strategy and where you see it going. But that's a huge problem that you're solving. Yeah. So I think you're going to be very rich, man. Richer than you already are. So I'm putting that in the universe. But before we go, I want you to go ahead and just like let people know where they can follow you, as well as, anything else you want to plug, man. You got it.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, also check me out on most platforms at I'm Just Cyrus. Not I am just Cyrus. I'm just Cyrus. That's IMJustCyrus. Avoid all the scam accounts. Please avoid all the scam accounts. And also tech is the new black, where we are educating people on how to break into the industry, scale in the industry, and or start their own tech business. All that super cool stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And when it comes to me, if you want to get in contact with me, you can go to direct.me/Big Tech Energy, and you can get all of my social medias, my Instagram, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my TikTok, all of that. And then if you are on YouTube, please subscribe to the page, like, share, comment. Make sure you subscribe to Big Tech Energy as well, not only on YouTube, but Spotify and Apple. You can find me there as well. And then also blackhire.com. It's a partnership I'm doing to get more black freelancers, really high paying, awesome opportunities. So if you're posting on Upwork or Fiverr, go ahead and put your profile on blackhire.com if you're a black freelancer. And if you are a company that is hiring freelancers, putting stuff on Upwork or Fiverr, go ahead and throw those jobs up on blackhire.com as well. Also want to shout out Black in HR. They're an organization of 9,000 black HR professionals, and they have an elite membership program where they're going to help your resume, your LinkedIn, your interview skills, but more importantly, plug you in to all the companies that are hiring. And they know where the layoffs are happening, and they also know where people are getting hired. So you're in good hands with that organization. So with that being said, thank you all for listening, and look forward to part 2 so we can dig into Tech is the New Black, Validify, and also anything else that Cyrus got going on, because he's a mastermind when it comes to social media stuff. So with that being said, Big Tech Energy, we're out.
Membership in Black in HR means community and being a part of a culture of like-minded individuals. You have a culture within a culture, especially in the Black community, and Black in HR is that professional culture. We have fun, we laugh and joke about things that are related to us in the workplace, but we also have serious aspects as well where we help each other grow. And it's just one of those places where I can go to any time of the day, pose a question, and I'm going to get all type of answers, but I'm going to get support.
And we all work together to give advice, to give insight, to share tips. The networking is amazing.
The people that I've spoken to have allowed me to learn things about myself that I didn't know. So what does that do? When I go to my next interview, I have that confidence when I walk in to be able to explain and speak on what I've done in the past and prove that I am the person for the job.